All right. So in a phase 2 warm up, we're going to try to do some unloaded or very lightweight versions of what is coming in the workout. And for a lot of the work that we're going to be doing in our group workouts, we're going to be doing a lot of body weight work because we have limited supplies for everybody to have some. So what Morgan's going to go through today is a few high quality reps of several of the things that we'll be doing in the group workouts. And he's going to start with a foundational move, which is an air squat. So Morgan's going to prepare for an air squat by putting his feet about just outside of hip width apart. He might move his toes out to about 45 degrees, maybe a little bit less than that, but he's going to want to give himself plenty of space to get his body down through his legs. And then he's going to continue by lowering his rear end. And notice how he's doing this in a way that's like sitting back toward a curb as opposed to just going straight down. So he's lowering to the point where his hips are below his knee creases. So his hips are below parallel, as we say. And he's pushing his chest up and keeping his eyes up. And then he's going to press through his legs to stand straight up and contract his glutes at the top. Why don't you do 2 more of those reps just to give people a sense of what that looks like. Yeah. Awesome. So this is a little bit distinct from what you might see, say, a little kid do, where they want to squat down and all of a sudden they're squatting down and their rear end is like right between their legs. That's a little bit of a different, that's sort of like a standing pose. It's even hard for an adult to pull off for the most part, but just be thoughtful. You're trying to kind of push your rear end backward a little bit. That's going to put you in the best possible, yeah, there you go, stand. So what you don't want to do is have our shoulders rolled forward or our chest falling forward. We want to be thinking about pressing that rear end just back just a little bit and keeping those knees tracking out over the toes. Beautiful. Awesome. So we're going to do some variations of squats. We may do weighted squats with like a medicine ball or with the balls that we used for the wall ball. You could do a goblet squat, and that would be just grabbing a dumbbell and holding the top of that dumbbell just under your chin, your elbows tucked in, and going ahead and executing exactly the same squat. Again, keeping that chest up. Morgan's doing an excellent job of that. But you want to keep that chest up as you go because you want to keep the weight as close to the center of gravity as you can. So you've got the body weight movement of the air squat, and then you've got a loaded movement with the goblet. You could do that with a kettlebell as well. Excellent. The squat is fantastic. The squat is really a full body movement. You can even pump your arms to kind of support yourself as you are going. And it's really very useful from a functional point of view. All right. So that's movement set number 1. The second body weight movement is going to be a push-up. So Morgan's going to get down into a plank position. It really does matter that he's doing a good job getting the plank position. So you'll notice that his hands, elbows, and shoulders are all aligned from top to bottom. He's not sort of tracking out, and his arms aren't like way out from his body, and he's distributing the weight across his hands. So he will have his fingers kind of spread out from each other a little bit to make sure that he's getting that weight across his hands, and he's not holding too much pressure in his wrists. He could also, if he wanted to, he could play around a little bit with moving his wrists around. You want a push-up position to not pinch. If it's pinching you, that's distracting from what you're really trying to accomplish. You also notice that Morgan here is contracting his glutes and his core. He's trying to keep his body really nice and tight so that as he does this movement, which he's doing a really good job of holding in an isometric position right now, that is a plank, which is its own exercise. As he does this movement, he's lowering his body by kind of taking that plank toward the floor. He's getting pretty close to the floor. Either his chest is touching or he's about a fist depth away from the floor, and then he's pressing straight back up. And you see Morgan's got his arms right next to his body. That's fantastic position because he's really engaging those triceps and leveraging that. Good thing is the real estate on your arm, it veers heavily toward triceps. So the more work you do there, the more ripped you're going to look after that effort. So Morgan right now is working his triceps. He's also working his pec muscles, and that's important to keep in mind as you think about what your recovery activity looks like too, because lots of push-ups can mean tight pecs. Awesome. All right. So yeah, Morgan can also do some different push-up variations. He could move his hands out. He could move his arms out. There you go. He could even pike his rear end up in the air and do something like what we call a downward dog push-up, where he's kind of trying to make a triangle with his hands at the back and his face in the front. Yeah, there you go. So all of those variations can just give you different stimuli. He's got close hand push-ups where he's putting his hands kind of in the middle of his chest, where his sternum is coming down. All of those variations can be of value. And I highly recommend testing several of them out. Sometimes if I'm going through a really high volume, like I have 150 or 200 push-ups in a round, I'm going to move my arms around quite a bit to avoid over-fatiguing certain muscles. Awesome. So here you've seen the example of a plank, you've seen the example of a push-up, and I'm actually going to have Morgan do a proper knee push-up as well. There's nothing wrong with a knee push-up from the standpoint that if you do it properly, you make that upper body into a true plank. So you get into that push-up or plank position, and then all you do is drop your knees and then do a real push-up, pressing up and down with exactly the same form. You're going to get some stimulus in the upper body, okay? The reason why people will struggle to do a push-up that's from the toes is usually actually core strength rather than arm strength, right? Certainly arm strength will definitely play a role as you get into higher volume, but this will help you practice holding that core, and it will also help you practice the range of motion for the push-up. So there's nothing sissy about a push-up like that. There's nothing sissy at all about push-ups that help you do more push-ups. Awesome. Okay. You got the plank, you've got some several variations on the push-up. All of that can be done with no weights in really quite limited space. So no excuses for not doing this. Awesome. All right. So some of you might be thinking, all right, well, the next natural thing is to do a pull-up. Where can we do pull-ups? Well, in the gym, we have the cable machine. We've got a variety of different pull-up variations. And then we also have this pull-up bar over the door, which I think is positioned somewhat dangerously. So be careful with that. So over here on the pull-up rig, we have several different grip options. In a traditional pull-up, you're pulling up and keeping your body nice and tight, okay? Just pulling up and holding over is its own movement. Come all the way back down, keep that body nice and tight, and then pull back up, body nice and tight, okay? That's a traditional pull-up. Morgan's gonna show you a chin-up. Remember chin-up? Yep, their reverse grip. And he's going to follow that same protocol. That's okay. Hello. So that might be you. As you're doing this, you get into the bottom of it, especially at the bottom and top of your range of motion. That's going to be your weakest place in a pull-up or in a chin-up. No problem. Morgan's going to have some options. One of those options is to throw a band over this. It's going to be a little bit tricky to get your foot into, but come over here. Foot. There you go. Try to step that down, press it toward the floor. There you go. And you're going to just let it drive you up. So jump up there. Either one, whatever you feel more comfortable with. So he's throwing a band on there, and he's letting that band help him get out of the bottom. There you go. So big difference, right? Nothing wrong with that. That's not even taking that much weight off. It's just helping him get out of the bottom, which is sort of that weakest part of the range of motion. Awesome. So he's doing overhand grip, pull up, so arguably the hardest of these ranges of motion. You have the option of doing different grips, like a neutral grip, pull up. That probably feels better. The distinction among those is that you're just going to use different muscle groups. In a traditional standard pull-up, you're going to really use those lats. In a neutral grip, you're going to engage much more of the front of your body in addition to the back of your body. Cool. So thank you, Morgan. So the part of the challenge with a pull-up is that it uses a really big muscle and fatigues really fast, right? Your ideal is to be pulling up. You don't have to hold up there as long as I was holding. I was just trying to show the body position. Come back down all the way down to a dead hang and then pull back up. I would much rather, and I think there's a lot more value, see you try to get that full range of motion rather than trying to get 20 pull-ups where you're missing the bottom and top of your range of motion. Pull-ups, of course, do require some kind of something that you can actually pull yourself up on. And they might require a band, but we have plenty of bands around. There's no reason not to practice, especially over here on the cable machine, which is a lot more reachable and not in front of a door where you could get nailed. So give that a shot as well. Awesome. Okay. So after you do a group of pull-ups, you should probably be winded. So you should be giving yourself at least a minute rest between sets of pull-ups. And you should be giving yourself a little bit of grace. Give yourself a kind of baseline. And then if you're interested in working on a pull-up protocol, we'll have a challenge focused on that probably in March. But we will help everybody kind of set goals and make some progress here, because that big latissimus dorsi in the back of your body is a huge and helpful muscle if you work it. Cool. Okay, awesome. Now we're going to move into sit-ups. So sit-ups, you certainly could do all kinds of variations on the floor with no equipment whatsoever. But Morgan's going to demonstrate a couple of ways that you can do a sit-up here in the fitness center. One is with little ab mats that we have. That's what he's got, right? So the way to use the ab mat is to use the fat part toward your rear end as opposed to toward your head. So you're getting that support in your lower back. And he's going to sort of lie back as naturally and relaxed as he can, relaxing his neck, relaxing his arms. And then he's going to put his feet together. And this is why it's called a butterfly sit-up. He's going to put his feet together, and he's going to reach from behind his head all the way forward in front of his toes and back. And you might think, no big deal. But you really need to touch that ground behind you and the ground in front of you. And the reason for that is you want to use your full abdominal muscle set. And you will find after several of these, as you're reaching forward in front of your toes, that you're really getting into that full, especially the abs in the lower part of your abdomen, the abdominal muscles in the lower part of your abdomen that you often don't have to contract. So the more that you contract and throw yourself up, the better the core exercise. Awesome. Thank you, Morgan. The other option is, let's say you don't have an ab mat. The other option is to get your toes underneath those dumbbells. Push your rear end a little bit closer to your heels. Yeah, the closer that your rear end is to the heels, kind of better stimulus you'll get. You'll lie all the way back with your hands behind your head. And again, throw yourself up. There you go. And that is an anchored sit-up. So you'll notice that Morgan has his hands behind his head, but what he's not doing is cranking his neck up. He's not trying to like press his hands into his neck and do damage to his neck muscles when he does this. He's just using his hands as a guide behind his head. Nice. And the ideal here is that your chest hits your knees. Cool. All right, other things that you could do from the floor. You could unanchor your feet. Put your legs straight out. Put your hands underneath your rear end. And lift your feet up to approximately 90 degrees. 90, yep. Up, down. Yes, I know that there are low leg lifts that are much more challenging than this, but we're just going to start with a basic leg lift. All right. It's good use of your abs. What Morgan was starting to do is a general form of torture, which is to keep your legs about a foot off the floor and sort of bounce up and down from just above the floor to about a foot up. So, or yes, hello dollies. So that's 90 degrees. That's a hello dolly. And then he could go to a foot off the floor, go down to the floor without touching it, back up to a foot off. Oop, a little high. There you go. Just there you go. Right? Those are all variations of varying difficulty where you're going to get a really nice ab workout. Next thing he's going to do is go ahead and put his feet on the floor just like that. He's going to sit up a little bit. So he's going to hands up. He's going to sit up. There you go, just like that. And then he's going to lift his feet off the floor, and he's going to reach from one side to the other. So yeah, he's going to do a Russian twist. Another good ab workout, which you can make more challenging by adding a medicine ball or a weight. Yeah, it's taxing. but a good ab workout. Awesome. I promised him he was going to get a little bit of a workout today, and he sure is. Good. All right. What are some of the other things that we might want to do as firefighters that are highly functional? One of the things that we might want to do is a bear crawl. So you'll notice Morgan has his feet on the floor, his hands on the floor, and he's going to try to keep his rear end fairly low. He's going to try not to pike up too much and move his feet and hands forward. There you go. Exactly. The reason he's going to practice not piking up too much is, hey, the reason we're doing a bear crawl is usually that we need to stay low because something's high, like maybe, I don't know, a fire. You might have some obstacles in the way. This is very realistic. All right. Awesome. So that's one way to do this. Another way you can do this is you can put on an SCBA. Make sure that SCBA is incredibly tight if you're going to crawl across the floor like this because you don't want it to knock you in the back of the head. But you could also put on a weighted vest and practice that way. Next thing you could do is an army crawl. I'm just going to have him take a couple of steps forward to just demonstrate the distinction. An army crawl is one where you're really maybe a tiny bit off the floor with your legs, but you're really crawling with your arms. This is really an upper body crawl that's taking you, with your elbows. That's trying to take you across the floor as low as possible, right? Things you might want to consider. If you're going to do an army crawl, you may want to put pants on. You probably want to put pants on or at least some knee pads. Awesome. Very good. The other thing that Morgan is going to demonstrate for us is a backward walk in a plank.
Oh, backward.
Yep. So he's going to get into a plank position, and he's going to practice just walking backward. Yep. Right. Part of this is just getting used to this movement and the coordination that's required. Ultimately, we'll probably work this into some things like wall walks, which will have analogy to backing out of a window. You're getting back out and you need to take your feet out the window first. But just starting here is a really great way to use the functional fitness movement to train some of those muscles. All right, awesome. Morgan, is there anything else you want the people to know?
No.
Cool. All right, awesome. So that covers some of the things that you might do in a phase 2 warm-up where you're doing unloaded warm-up, but also lots of different body weight options that you have for putting together an exercise. So I will do some programming with body weights. Now you have a reference for what that looks like and how you might build something. Morgan, did you get a workout just now? Yeah, and we pretty much didn't really pick up any weights, right?
No.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.